And Sariavaush relates, "This is what I did by the effort of Ura Master after I received kingship. A man named Kambutia, Kurash's son of our family, he formerly held kingship. That Kambutia had a brother, a man named Pirtia, with the same mother and father as he himself had." And I'm reading this from the Elamite version of the Bistoun inscription according to the new completed reading that I'm working on. "That Kambutia slew Pirtia. When Kambutia had slain Pirtia, the armed man did not know that Pirtia was dead. Then Kambutia went to the land of the Egyptians, and then the troops became evil, and the lie became great among the nations, both among the Persians and the Medes, and also among the other nations. Then a man, a Magush named Kamata, at Nashirma, a mountain called Arakatarish, there he rose in revolt. 14 days of the 12th month were passed, he revolted thus. He lied to the people, saying, 'I am Pirtia, Kurash's son, Kambutias' brother.'" And I've highlighted for you this last phrase. In the Elamite version, even more than in the Old Persian and Babylonian versions, direct speech is very emphatic. It is actually a very strong narrative element in the Bistoun inscription. And I probably don't need to remind you of the story of Gaumata, the Magus, which in itself, of course, has all kind of folktale elements in it. And I wanted to pause at this moment, at this reflection, because we will look at Bistoun as a place of writing, actually as the place where cuneiform writing was first deciphered. But at the same time, it is a place, it is a locus where all kinds of Iranian narrative traditions come together. And I think also in terms of preservation and education and embedding this monument in Iranian identity and indeed of world heritage, it is also very important to keep track of such other traditions. Next one. Yes, so it's the place, of course, where Darius recorded the history of the rebellions against his reign. Next one. And just to show you the location near Kermanshah, please. An old view from Cameron. I'm showing you this to show you how impressive this mountain rises quite suddenly from the valley floor. Next one. A fertile valley, possibly the region where Gaumata actually was defeated by King Darius and his troops. Next one. Now we are entering the gorge, and next. And here we see from the opposite side the monument, the relief, and the inscription of Bistoun. Next one. A recent taking of the head of King Darius. I will go into the various details of this in a minute. Next one. Just to show you, Darius first thought of the monument as a no inscription monument, then decided to add an Elamite version to the right, then expanded the relief, replaced the first Elamite version by a second on the lower left, and then added Old Persian and Akkadian versions, so that the end result is actually quite crowded. Next one. This is the old first Elamite version that always was thought of by dictum of George Cameron to be identical with the second Elamite version, but it is not. The first paragraph of it is actually different. Next one. And here you can see how the relief was recarved to add an extra rebel, Skuncha, on the right. You see that it goes inward to recarve the rock, and that it has destroyed part of the original first Elamite version. Next one. And this is the lower side of the whole monument. On the left, you see the Elamite, and then it continues to the right with the Old Persian. And top left is the Akkadian. Next one. And here you see this second Elamite version at sunrise, which generally is the best condition to study the inscription. Next one. This is at the, below the Old Persian version. I will be talking much more about the water streaming over it. Next one. This is the Akkadian version that is protruding over the Elamite one, and which has been fixed provisionally in recent years, in 2008, if I'm not mistaken, because it was threatening to come down. And this is one of the most worrying aspects of the monument for the coming generations. Next one. And next one. So it was here that cuneiform writing was first deciphered by the efforts of Henry Rawlinson. I think I don't have to recall that for you here. But I repeat that this is not the entire history. First of all, Bistoun is a locus of all kinds of narrative traditions, which is actually quite interesting considering that it is such an important spot for writing. But secondly, once cuneiform writing was deciphered, interest shifted away from Bistoun. And I think one might say that Bistoun, especially the Elamite version, was a bit orphaned afterwards, especially with all the exciting discoveries, Gilgamesh and so forth, resulting in the fact that there is no up-to-date synoptic edition of all the versions of the Bistoun inscription. Next one. So Rawlinson's inscription at the Bistoun inscription. Next one. Just to give you a very brief overview, Rawlinson did not publish the Elamite version himself. He gave that to Edwin Norris, who published it in 1855. In that time, it was a great advance. I mean, Norris was really pioneering in it. And he reproduced the paper squeezes made by Rawlinson at the site. Next one. And I have shown that, showed this for you here. This is a real treasure because the paper squeezes now are not accessible anymore. They have deteriorated that much. I'm not even sure that they still exist, but they cannot be used anymore. So this is all we have for the state of the monument in the 1840s when these squeezes were made. And you cannot see it from where you're sitting, but Norris and Rawlinson actually took great care to show signs either fully colored, meaning that they are completely preserved, or half colored, gray in the print, or just in outline when they reconstruct them. And one of the tasks that we have before us is to sort of get that information out of this drawing, because there's much more in the drawing than actually in the text of the publication. Next one. Norris was not on the site. He worked with the squeezers at his desk in England, and also Aubert and Weisbach worked with the same paper squeezers. Then afterwards, next one, a new expedition was launched by King and Thompson, famously resulting in what was long termed the standard edition of Bistoun. But contrary to what most people think, King and Thompson actually were not at the inscription. They were on the opposite rock and used binoculars to look at the inscription. They made many, many improvements, but as you can imagine, if a sign is just partly preserved, you're not going to see it really very clearly with binoculars. You have to, I mean, I read the inscription with my fingers rather than with my eyes, and this is something that you cannot do when you're working with binoculars. Next one. So there was another expedition, actually two, by George Cameron, one in the 40s and one in the 50s, that had as a goal to finalize actually the King and Thompson edition in some minor details. Next one. So Cameron had this moving scaffold built and was lifted up, spent some days there. Next one. Next one, please. And also covered the relief and the inscriptions with latex squeezes that he took home. Next one. these are the latex tweezers. Cameron unfortunately kept them on his heating in his office, and they have deteriorated so much that they were chemically unstable when Professor Mark Garrison and I visited Ann Arbor in 2012. They are completely unusable. Unfortunately, because Cameron was trusting on the latex tweezers, he didn't photograph the monument. He has photographed at Bistoun, and there is a Cameron file in the photographic cabinet in Ann Arbor. It has more than 1,000 pictures of Cameron with his son at Bistoun, of goats at Bistoun, of the son with goats at Bistoun, of Cameron and his son and goats at Bistoun, and so forth. But not a single one of the inscriptions, not a single one. Next one, please. So you see another example. Next one. So basically what we have between now, between 1840 and quite recently is this. So this is why I said this is a real treasure. Next one. And next one. So I will show you now some pictures of the present state, first of the relief and then of the inscriptions. This is, of course, the crown of King Darius, which is in a superb state, as you can see. Next one. And this is King Darius himself, and as you can see, there are ancient repairs on the relief. They were known, but they can now be studied in much more detail. You can see that the beard of the king is actually an inset made with local rock, but put in the surface of Bistoun, because apparently there was a crack in the stone that they had to counter. Next one. Yeah, and here you can see that what they did actually was cast into the inset molten lead and then covered it. Like here, this is actually the original lead still sitting on it. In many other places, these insets have come out. Next one. So here you can see that the little lid sitting on top of the lead has come off. This is on the shoulder, on the neck, actually, I should say, of King Darius. Next one. And here you can see that an entire inset has come off, but that the lead cast into it is still visible. Next one. And here you see the head of Ara Mazda, and you see that he has a headdress that is an inset, actually, and part of the inset has been destroyed, probably cracked and fell down, excuse me. Next one. And you can still see this protruding piece of lead, this pipe of lead that once held it in place. Cameron had a theory that this held a crystal ball or something in front of the headgear of the god, but it is actually just a device to keep the stone. Next one. Another thing that we have at Bistoun, we have ancient repairs, we also have ancient damage. These are bullet holes. One enlarged on the right. In the 19th century, it was not uncommon to use Bistoun as a target to practice your rifling skills. So we have a couple of dozen of such bullet holes in the relief. Next one. And then, of course, there's all kinds of erosion and deposit of all kinds of materials, and I should stress I'm not a stone expert, so I will show you the images and later on cite the opinion of others. Next one. We have cracking also around the monument that some of them seem to be dangerous, endangering the monument. Next one. And we have this water hole. This is a dark image, but you can see the hole in the middle, and it's actually water is coming out of it and streaming over the Old Persian version. Next one. So what has been done until now is actually quite a lot. There have been a lot of efforts, also thanks to the quite active equipe at Bistoun, at the Bistoun World Cultural Heritage Site. Bistoun has been inscribed in 2006. I should add, there have been all kinds of analyses and reports about that, but apart from provisional conservation, fixing the Akkadian version and trying to divert some of the rainwater, not a lot has been done as yet. But I do want to stress at the same time that the team in Bistoun is very professional and has been doing quite a lot in as far as they could. There has also been a first campaign of 3D imaging in 2003 and 2004. And as you know, these techniques are developing quite fastly. So then it was state of the art. By now we already reach resolutions that are far higher, which was the reason to do a new 3D scanning campaign. Next one. So this is from the 2003 campaign. Now the next one, please. The other thing that has been happening, I just mentioned this very briefly, is that an archaeological park has been developed there. You see, including others, that the ancient roads is being paved. There have been restorations. There's landscaping going on. Not everybody will agree with every aspect of it, but it has made Bistoun a very popular site, also for the population of the province, which I think is a great gain that they identify with this site and that they like to go there. Next one. So what has been done, and this is certainly not my achievement, but it's a cooperation between the local staff, including the director, Hossein Rai, and a Berlin-based architectural and engineer office headed by Ziad El Amipour. A database has been made of earlier efforts, of earlier reports. Terrestrial laser scanner has been done, meaning that there is a 3D image of the entire rock, and then 3D laser scanning of the actual monument has been done, resulting in a precision to 1/20th of a millimeter. So it's awfully precise, and all of this is integrated also with high-resolution images and with data produced by a technique called light stripe scanning to produce images, both moving images and 3D still images of the monument with natural color, but also with the possibility to change the texture of the monument on your screen. For instance, for reading the inscription, this can be very useful. Next one, please. So this scanning was done at night to avoid light interference. Next one. And it was done with a scaffold, of course, which is 70 meters high. And this was one of the great problems when we started this, when there was the permission and when Mr. De Lamipour was commissioned to do this. There was only sufficient money to build part of the scaffolding, and suddenly the work came to a halt. There was a great crisis because all of us had planned to go there and work there. And it's a great occasion for me to mention that almost overnight the Sudavar Memorial Foundation came to the rescue, and especially Fatima Sudavar, thank you so much for doing that, in securing adequate funding for finishing the scaffold. So I propose hereby that we baptize it the Sudavar scaffold. Next one, please. So this is the Sudavar scaffold from above. It's, despite its name, it's a very frightening thing, I must say. Next one, please. Here you can see it. So it was built up actually over the head even of the rise to be able to look really directly to all parts of the monument, even the Akkadian version. Next one. We divided the inscriptions in little squares. Because the resolution is so high that it produces images that are enormous that you cannot read even on a normal computer. So to downsize it a little bit, we had to split it, but in the future we will be able, when everybody has astronomical laptops, we will be able to put this together again. So this is really done also in view of the future advances. Next one. This is my esteemed colleague, Dr. Hackel from Vienna, working on the Akkadian version. We had to make a ladder actually to reach it because it's hanging over the other inscription. It's very difficult to reach. So I mean, he was the bravest of all. Next one. Maybe less brave, but very functional. Here is Professor Jacobs of Basel working on the iconography of the relief, which he is doing together with Mark Garrison of San Antonio. Next one. Here is the Old Persian version that is being worked on by Dr. Jan Tavernier of Leuven. And next one. And this is the Elamite version with my own ladder. Next one. Not so high, but in windy conditions sometimes quite scary. Next one. And what we are producing is, as I said, is a synoptic edition, actually of 4 versions, because there's also an Aramaic version found in Egypt, in Elephantine, and it will be printed in 4 columns with 4 different translations, so that we can actually enjoy the multilingual nature, the willfully multilingual nature of this monument, and highlight where these various versions that are not translations but versions, where these versions really are different and where they really are saying the same thing, so that we will have a much fuller understanding of this wonderful monument. Next one. So I just give you just one tiny example. Philologists have work on details, as you know. So not all my discoveries are as exciting for larger audiences, maybe. They're very exciting for me. One of the things we are doing all the time is just measuring space. In the last 150 years, hardly anybody was at the rock, and most people worked with earlier editions. And then you get a kind of oral histories about how many signs are missing in a particular line, and people are making their own suggestions about what to read there, and these suggestions become more fantastic over time. So it was actually wonderful to get rid of a lot of impossible suggestions just by measuring the rock. So here there has been a restoration based on the other versions. My law was upheld among the nations, and you see various suggestions going up to 7 signs, but there's no room for 7 signs. And so I was struggling with it, and then I suddenly saw that it is not written, the law that is mine, with a relative, which occurs elsewhere in the inscription, but without a relative, and then it fits, and actually the traces that are there fit exactly with that solution. Next one. So this is the solution highlighted here. Next one. So now I will focus a little bit on the Elamite version and the damage to it. You see here that water is dripping. There's quite an impressive hole, actually. Next one. As you can see here, it's not as bad as you think, because when measuring the space and also seeing what is missing in your text, both my colleague Jan Tavernier working on the Old Persian version, where you have the same phenomenon, and me working on the Elamite version, we had the same discovery that not so much is missing as you would expect, given the space that has been eroded away, meaning, in all probability, that not all of it was inscribed, meaning that water was already coming out in antiquity. Next one. So here you see it in front. Next one. And this is where you push once, and now we wait patiently. Yes, so here's a 3-dimensional movie going from left to right. As you see over the 3rd column of the Elamite inscription, you see all this deposit coming from the water, and then the channel through which the main stream of water is coming out, and then you see the pristine rock again, and here you can really read the signs perfectly well. I mean, where the signs are preserved, where there's not a deposit or anything, they are really pristine. It's quite incredible. The stone is really of quite hard quality. So we have this for every inch, and we could even zoom into it. I could even show you shades inside the signs, so you can imagine that for an epigraphist, this is an incredible tool, especially when you use it in conjunction with visiting the site. Next one. So I show you some of these different deposits. This is this sort of mushroom kind of growth stone sitting on the 3rd column. Next one. And the same. You can see the signs still shimmering through. I can still read them. Next one. And here the same. You can see sometimes a quite dramatic difference between no deposit, where it has been cracked off due to frost. Next one. And like here also, you see that pristine signs are actually underneath it. Next one. And then there is all kinds of other deposits. So there's also this sort of more subtle buildup that leaves only holes. But in cuneiform writing, actually, counting holes already helps you quite a lot. And we have the rolling sun drawings. Next one. So then you go to the left, to the second column, which is undamaged, I would say. Next one. Quite beautiful, as you see. The signs are about this size, very big cuneiform signs. Next one. Really, they are real beauties. It's a real joy to read it. Next one. And then you go to the left first column of the inscription, which is in many ways the worst because it has a different kind of damage. It has rainwater flowing over it, whereas the third column has filtered water coming from within the rock. This has pure rainwater, which actually is nowadays not all that pure. Next one. So there are all kinds of petrochemical plants in the valley. And although it has been claimed that there is no visible effect on the inscription, I will show you images that do suggest something else. Next one. So you see that where the stream of water comes down, a lot is eroded, and then when you zoom in, next one, you see that sometimes there is just this cheese left off. This is cuneiform writing, ladies and gentlemen, but you wouldn't recognize it if I wouldn't have told you. Next one. These are cuneiform signs, and these signs actually I can still read. Next one. I will come back to that later, sorry. This area that seems smoother than the rest, next one, is actually what George Cameron did when he was there. He was chiseling away what he thought was deposit to reach signs below it, but in this part of the inscription that is actually not the case, so it was quite destructive what he was doing, and now these passages, which were the most crucial passages, that's why he was chiseling away at them, are lost. So that's damage done, unfortunately. Next one. So these are, again, cuneiform signs, and they will show you that you can still read them. Next. This is the 3D scan that we have prepared. And next, you see you can still read the signs on it. I mean, it is a matter of using your fingers to read, but you still can. So in this sense, it's really not too late yet. Next one. So this is just an overview of that upper left corner of the first column. And next one. Again, this is absolutely not my expertise, but I do cite it for you because the subject is the condition of the inscription and the monument as a whole. In 2011, a plan was made, a provisional plan, I should say, which has not been carried out. And it's a quite rough plan, but it gives you an idea of how one could approach this. As always, building a systematic catalog, a map of the various damages, and linking them with the 3D images that we have produced, and then do all kinds of different analyses, including also pigment analysis, because there are some indications that pigment might have been used. And then a very detailed restoration catalog for very tiny units. I imagine 10 by 10 centimeters or something like that, because as you have seen, there are many different problems on the stone, many different deposits, many different kinds of erosion. And of course also this will have to be together with a proposal for facilities at least diverting the rainwater from the Elamite version where it makes the most damage. I also cite, I hope it's not inappropriate, that this is actually not at all very expensive. It's of course a very rough estimate, and now 4 years later it would have been a little bit more, I think, but the estimate for the restoration is only 66,000 euros, which for what you get, of course, a World Heritage Site is not a lot. Next one. So, finally, I hope I still have 5 minutes, I want to address an issue that we have heard already in the opening lecture yesterday. How far should one go with preservation, with conservation? How aggressive or how conservative should it be? And in answering this question, one should understand, I think, why the monument has been made where it is and what is its landscape context. Next one. So first of all, it was a sacred area. We know this from various sources, and the name itself actually means place of the gods, as probably you already knew. Next one. It's a very imposing mountain. If you stand at its foot, it rises to 2,000 meters high. It is an impressive place. It is a place with a numinous quality felt by everybody who visits it. Next one. It has this lake, a source lake with water coming up, with very pure water, which has always been there, which has always watered a green area, landscaped in many periods of history. Next one. And it is in a particular part of the mountain. It's not even that much high up. People are often disappointed when they first see it. They say, oh, it's so small, it's so low. But it is in a particular angle, a particular gorge of the mountain. Next one. And that is because it is the only place where in fall the sun rises over the rock. And of course, that coincides with the date of Darius' final victory. So I'm quite sure that this has to do with that. Next one. We have tested this. This is not so long ago. As you see, the sun rises beautifully over the inscription and gives it this really wonderful color. Next one. So another reason for choosing this gorge, as you can see, it's narrowing quite quickly towards its end. Next one. And a platform has been found there by German archaeologists and reconstructed. Next one. As a kind of sacrificial platform. I'm not sure that this is correct, and I think that not everybody agrees with it, but there was some kind of structure below what is now the Bistoun monument, and it probably predates this monument. So something was going on in this gorge. I would invite you to go there yourself and see, especially when it rains, what is going on there. There will be waterfalls all around you, coming straight from above, from a great height. And there is this echo between the two rock surfaces, and then there is this numinous gorge in which you find yourself. So maybe we should not speculate too much on what god precisely was venerated here, but just accept for the moment that it was a special place in antiquity. Next one. And next one. Now, what I would like to stress, I have already said that this water flowing out of the rock probably already was doing that in antiquity. And I also told you that first, in the first phase of designing this monument, only a relief was conceived and no inscriptions. And if you now try to omit from what you're seeing the inscription and focus only on the relief, then you see that it is made just above the source of water. So water was streaming from just below the feet of Darius and the rebel kings. And this might actually have been a willful design by the original sculptors. And then when they made those inscriptions below, apparently they took for granted that water would stream over it. Maybe they even wanted that. Maybe this really added to their sense of numinosity of this place. Maybe this was a very important aspect for them. Next one. Here you see this break which runs through the entire mountain and through which water is coming out on all sides. Next one. Here you see a close-up of the hall, which we think now is an ancient hall. Next one. You see this towering rock, this angle in which you're standing there. When it rains, streams of water and also waterfalls are coming from everywhere. Next one. Here you can see that sort of really enclosed space much better. Next one. And here you see that even outside the sculptured and inscribed area, the rock has been flattened and water is streaming over it constantly. It's really an artwork involving water. Next one. So, and that of course recalls, if I may, I know it's a repeating story from me. Yes, next one, and next one. And next one, if you look to Iran's tradition of rock reliefs and open-air sanctuaries, you see that water has always played an important role in it. And let's go to Kurangun to show you this. Next one. Yes, next one. Here you see indicated Kurangun, again at a quite low position comparable to Bistoun. Next one. Here from the mountain summit, actually you see the relief down there. Next one. Next one, yeah, here on the top of the mountain, the Fakhlian River, and in the back. Next one, central relief with seated snake deity. Next one, and from his hands or from his ring and scepter flow streams of water, fertilizing the area, symbolizing the power of this god. Next one, you see an overview again. Next one, with projected on it a reconstruction of the relief. Next one. And here too, there is actually an ancient source of water coming out just below the relief. So in antiquity, there must have been a waterfall coming out, which has dried up now, as so often in Iran, but the traces of it are pretty clear. Next one. And then, of course, to end in the Middle and Neo-Elamite period in the valley of Iza, there are a series of rock reliefs, two places in particular, Kulefara, and opposite the valley, the gorge of Shekafte Salman, which has a very, very impressive waterfall, very beautiful waterfall. And under the waterfall actually is a cave, and in the cave are some rock reliefs. And we are standing in the cave now. Next one. And here you see the cave with the rock reliefs, we are ending here with a very sobering note, because like Kurangun, Shekafte Salman is of course nominally projected, but it is very easy to go there and destroy things. And this is actually what has happened. Next one. So you see that this kind of vandalism. And next one. Is happening to these poor Elamite reliefs, who generally have been orphaned in Iranian heritage management. And I don't know whether that is because they are unknown or because they're Elamite. It doesn't matter. They should be protected. And for this reason, I was actually very glad that somebody in the audience this morning made this remark about Iranian and Persian. As I keep telling my students, in Tehran, Elamite culture is also an Iranian culture, and Iranians and non-Iranians alike should help protect it as part of world heritage. Thank you so much.